Good afternoon, everybody. David Harridan here from Flexo Global, and thank you very much for being with us today. We have got just a great program that we know you're really going to enjoy watching today. So for those of you who have been watching all of our series of programs from Flexo Global, thank you very much for being with us. For those of you who are new, welcome. We really look forward to a great program from our good friends at Kodak who are sponsoring today's program, and we really appreciate their participation as well as their support for bringing this great programs to you. Next time the Kodak representative is in your facility, please be sure to tell them thank you for bringing these programs. Let me go ahead and introduce our good friend, Laura Hatch, who's our Flexo Global Editor-in-Chief Extraordinaire. Laura, thank you for being with us today, and just take it away.
Thank you, Dave. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for this webinar. Our presenter today is Robin Montmaueur, Global Marketing Manager for Kodak's Flexo products. Robin joined Kodak in 2009 from the remanufacturing industry for desktop printing consumables. And with her degree in environmental science and forestry, she was drawn by the combination of Kodak's commitment to the environment and its award-winning printing technologies. At Kodak, she's responsible for the global marketing of Kodak's innovative Flexo NX digital flexographic system. She spends much of her time promoting the performance, consistency, and cost savings experienced by the system users. But perhaps even more importantly, she likes to stress the positive impact to the bottom line. This also translates into a fantastic sustainability story for printers and ultimately the brand owners that they serve. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Robin.
Thank you, Laura, and good day to everyone. I just want to thank you for joining me for the next 40 minutes or so as we explore one of the most hotly debated topics today. That is, as we all strive to make our business more sustainable, we have asked ourselves as an industry, should I choose solvent processing or thermal processing for my flexographic business? My true hope is that at the end of this presentation, you'll have some new thoughts. One of them will be where to best focus your sustainability efforts so that they make the biggest difference on your operations' environmental impact. And secondly, how sustainable choices in flexographic plate making and printing can also positively impact your bottom line. So let's just start with a little background. What is sustainability? Well, it's been around for quite some time, and 20 years ago, in 1987, the UN defined sustainable development as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The business world has really translated this into a triple bottom line approach, and it's known as people, planet, and profit. And it captures an expanded spectrum of values and criteria for measuring organizational and societal success, economically, ecologically, and socially. People, planet, profit succinctly describes the triple bottom lines and the goal of sustainability. How does that sustainability message relate to the packaging printer? Well, if we talk about people, what are the social costs and benefits of packaging? How can we make better contributions to people's well-beings? The global packaging industry is conservatively estimated at over $600 billion and employs more than 5 million people around the world. The benefits of packaging to individuals and communities vary from the creation of meaningful, stable employment, which you're all a part of, to the protection, preservation, safety, and transport of products and foods, which we all consume. Packaging allows key marketing and product differentiation to our brand owners and educates and informs the consumer. At the same time, the procurement, production, waste, and transport during package printing can have a negative consequence for both the environment and the societies around the globe. Corporate social responsibility, accountability, and equitable wages are all part of becoming a sustainable packaging printer for people. The other pillar, the planet. What are the costs to the planet, and how can we reduce the environmental burdens created by the packaging that people use every day? This is probably a really hotly debated item that you discuss both internally and with your own customers. Environmental sustainability is not an end goal, but is the continuous application of an integrated and preventative strategy to increase overall efficiency, reduce risks to humans and the environment. For the packaging printer, this includes making strides towards conserving raw materials, water, and energy, eliminating dangerous raw materials, and reducing emissions and waste during the printing process. And of course, we're all interested in profit. Sustainability is good for business, and that's what I'm going to show you today. But in a slow economy like today, when printers can't be expected to raise prices or grow sales quickly, it's really time to look to the bottom line and see if you can add a few percentage points of cost savings. Historically, increased packaging use has accompanied economic growth. We see this in the emerging markets around the world as they move from street vendors to packaged store goods. An efficient and productive packaging industry engaged in truly sustainable practices is essential to meet these incredible increasing demands. Balancing the cost of packaging procurement, production, and product delivery with the desired functionality and appearance are key to profitable printing businesses. Education of business colleagues, suppliers, and customers is also an important vehicle to connect a sustainable packaging printing strategy to the existing market needs. So although all three pillars are equally important to sustainable industry, today we're really going to be focusing on the planet and profit. So packaging perceptions. Packaging for you is likely a very big part of your business, and the packaging printing that goes along with that. There are probably a few other byproducts to your business that are more valuable to the health of your business than the packaging you ship out your doors every day. But that same package is perceived differently by the different stakeholders in its life cycle. Consumers, they perceive packaging in one way. The economy today is actually taking consumers back to the day when it's waste not, want not, and that was key to economic survival. Although the perception of waste may be based more on the physical presentation of the packaging, their frustrations have been heard by brand owners and retailers around the world. Some of their frustrations reach from a global level of landfills to a local level of roadsides littered with cups and plastic bags, to the personal frustration that I think we all share when those impossible-to-open plastic clamshells arrive, or those half-filled cereal boxes that make you feel like you got ripped off. Consumers are becoming more and more vocal about the packaging industry. Another stakeholder is the brand owner. For the brand owner, packaging is a powerful thing. Brand owners know the recognition and perception of a brand is highly influenced by its visual presentation. Packaging must communicate the values of a brand while still fulfilling its practical role, providing for protection, display, and distribution. Advertising does a fantastic job by raising awareness of the brand values. Packaging works where it matters. It's really the ultimate relationship marketing. And lastly, the retailer. In effect, really good packaging doubles as an effective point of purchase and display for the brand at the retailer. But remember, shelf real estate is at a premium at a retailer, and thus packaging that minimizes shelf space, maximizes product sell-through, and increases the ability to command a higher price is key to the retailer. For retailers, the package must also protect the product from store theft and the abuses of transportation and consumer handling. So while your primary focus may be on the production of packaging, it is clear that that is not necessarily what is important to the other groups that we've just discussed. You as printers do not sell packaging directly to the consumer marketplace. You sell it to brand owners who in turn put their products in the packaging and then out to the retail market. Consumers look to brand owners and retailers, not you, the printers, for information about the sustainability of packaging. But really, brand owners and retailers don't have all the data, so now they're looking to you. Some of the actions that show they're looking to you are some things that have started as far back as 2006. Brand owners and retailers have really begun to request transparency from their suppliers and are asking them to provide products that have been made using environmentally sustainable practices. The packaging scorecard announced in 2006 from Walmart can probably be considered the powerhouse behind sustainable packaging initiatives. This enormous undertaking required their 100,000-plus suppliers to complete a sustainability scorecard for every product sold at Walmart, to then be evaluated relative to other suppliers in their category, and ultimately be expected to improve their scores year over year. Walmart's corporate goal in this effort is to reduce packaging across their global supply chain by 5% by 2013. But such measures are not limited to the biggest retailer in the world, and I've shown a couple other here. There have been hundreds of initiatives from retailers and brand owners, big and small, and from all industries, and they have made packaging sustainability their key focus. Even more recently, brand owners and retailers, as you can see on the bottom there with Consumer Goods Forum, have banded together to drive consistency across their programs so that the supplier can then simplify compliance and ultimately improve the effectiveness of their efforts. This pressure can be felt upstream at printers such as yourselves, and being an early adopter of sustainability best practices can provide a competitive edge and allow you to deliver important sustainability improvements to the brand owner and retailers downstream. So if we talk a little bit about mindset around sustainability, it's well known that although these stakeholders we have just discussed will often say they want a more sustainable packaging, the vast majority of them are rarely, if ever, prepared to compromise anything to get it. Given a choice between performance, price, convenience, and sustainability, the large majority of them will place sustainability at the bottom of their shopping list. As a printer, you may believe that that is the same trade-off you see in your business. Sustainable printing practices on the surface may appear more costly, yield lower performance, and it cause you to be less efficient. During conversations with printers, I also ask them what they're doing in sustainability, and more often than not, there is no response, or they state they wish they were doing more. Then I ask them what they're doing to become more efficient. They have lots of answers then. So they haven't learned to take their package, their story, into saying, we're being more efficient, which saves on waste, landfill, source reduction, and energy, and therefore they're not connecting the dots between efficiency and sustainability. In fact, by ensuring that your packaging printing operation meets clean production best practice standards, supports responsible manufacturing, worker safety, and sustainable packaging, it can ultimately reduce costs, improve quality, and long-term profitability, while creating a competitive edge against your competition. Here at Kodak, we believe that the traditional either-or, sustainability or cost trade-off, and compromise mindset can be changed, and it can start with making the right plate choice. So let's get back to the question that we had. We've looked at a very global view of packaging sustainability. But let's see the question that we have today. You may be asking yourself, should I choose solvent or thermoprocessing for my Flexo plate, which will help me reach my environmental sustainability goals? Sustainability has certainly been a hot topic of debate over the last couple of years among flexographic plate manufacturers, as the Flexo industry searches for information that makes sense and guidance that will allow them to make the correct Flexo plate choice. Both DuPont's life cycle analysis and Flint's eco-efficiency assessment were published a little over 2 years ago in September of 2008. McDermott published their environmental footprint calculator in April of this year. All are focused on the environmental impact of plate making, imaging, and processing. However, the studies draw quite different conclusions about solvent and thermal plate making. In DuPont's life cycle analysis, the environmental impacts of a plate choice are analyzed through all phases of its life. This includes all the inputs and outputs associated with plates, chemistries, substrates, inks, transportation, and the associated packaging. DuPont measures non-renewable energy, which is the energy derived from sources that cannot be replenished in a short period of time, for example, coal, oil. They also measured greenhouse gases, which are components of the atmosphere that contribute to the greenhouse effect. And these are usually reported as kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalents. DuPont's conclusions on Flexo versus gravure was that Flexo has a 50% savings in both non-renewable energy and greenhouse gas emissions. So therefore, Flexo is better than gravure. But to the topic of today's discussion, their discussion on Flexo versus thermal, digital thermal plate making is better with a 60% savings in non-renewable energy and a 51% savings in greenhouse gas emissions. So therefore, they state that digital thermal plate making is better than solvent. In Flint's eco-efficiency analysis, much like a life cycle analysis, it measured the life cycle impact but also added the economic factor of the choice as well. Flint's conclusions on solvent versus thermal were that they're equal from an energy consumption standpoint. However, solvent releases fewer emissions to the environment due to the redistillation of solvents, and the cost of solvent processing is 10% less than thermal. Therefore, their conclusion is that digital solvent plate making is better. And then just to add a little bit more confusion, McDermott's environmental footprint calculator is based on a life cycle analysis. Their study, however, only included the materials and energy used associated with the steps between plate making and packaging, and then the imaging and processing of the photopolymer plate. Their conclusions were that liquid photopolymer plate making is best, followed by digital thermal, and lastly, digital solvent. With all three studies, it should be stated, though, that although they differ in their stance on solvent versus thermal, they all do agree that a reduction in plate thickness does improve energy, emission, and cost measurements. So which study is correct? Which technology should you choose to minimize environmental impact? Well, the answer, I'm not going to debate their studies or their methodologies. All were well thought out, and they were very articulate in their findings. What I propose instead is that the answer you are asking is the wrong question. So what's the correct answer? The question should not be whether solvent processing or thermal processing of flexoplates is better for the environment. Kodak's position is that while it may seem logical to make a direct comparison between plate processing technologies, it is actually, by design, ignores the greatest impact that plate technology can have on sustainability. That is, how it performs on press. So the real question is, how can my plate choice have a maximum impact on my overall sustainability goals? The right reasons to choose a Flexo plate should focus on the big picture. To look at the true sustainability benefits of a particular plate choice, you must look beyond the plate making and plate processing and look at the whole flexographic printing process and consider all the key contributors to environmental impact. While the Flexo plate choice may have a significant impact on quality and printed results, they represent only a small part of the overall non-renewable energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions in the flexographic printing process. This stack diagram is adapted from the non-renewable energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions diagrams in the DuPont Life Cycle Analysis report. This diagram illustrates the significant components involved and indicates that substrate, ink, electricity, and etc. used in the printing process are far more significant in the plate than the plate in the overall picture. The plate is shown as being typically 1% or less of the overall impact. This is no great surprise, of course. When we stand back and think about it, presses are great energy burners, and every print run utilizes considerable volumes of ink and substrate. But what this chart reveals is that in order to have a maximum positive impact on sustainability of the Flexo printing process, we really need to focus on those big-ticket items. It tells us that if our plate has the power to drive optimum performance and reduce the substrate and ink waste on press, it has the power to have a much bigger impact beyond the plate component itself. I believe that the authors of the DuPont Life Cycle Analysis would agree, and they draw the same conclusions in their publications. As you can see here, they've said, it's evident that the environmental impact of image carriers on the printing process is dwarfed by the other printing input burdens. Substrates, inks, and other processes associated with them at the print stage dominate the environmental footprint for converters. So simply stated, we need to save as much substrate as possible during printing. All other production components follow proportionally, like ink, solvent, energy, and drying. A reduction of only 1% in substrate used in the printing process outweighs the impact that you can make by choosing one plate making technique over another. So which plate will reduce substrate and ink waste? Choose a plate that provides the best on-press performance, thereby reducing the substrate and ink waste on press. That is, choose a plate that will allow you to print predictably, print with consistency and repeatability, maximize productivity and efficiencies, use less ink for desired densities. You may be thinking that this list of sustainability actions also makes good business sense as well. And as promised in the beginning of this presentation, I'll discuss the impact to your bottom line in a few moments. Next, if you consider the plate element of the overall picture in detail, the photopolymer plate itself is the more significant contributor to the environmental impact. This diagram indicates that raw materials and manufacturing comprise about 75% of a plate's environmental impact. Plate processing comprises only 25% or less. So with this information, simply stated, it's clear that the best way to have a positive environmental impact is to use less plates. It may seem glaringly obviously, but it's undeniably true. Not only does fewer plates reduce the impact from the manufacture of the photopolymer itself, but one less plate used is one less plate processed. And every plate that is eliminated reduces mounting tape, mounting time, cleaning, disposal costs, and ink. How can I use fewer plates? Here I suggest that you choose a plate that enables you to make accurate plates the first time, run longer on one set of plates, store and renew plates without remakes, make greater use of process color, and use more combination plates. There are some key technology enablers behind reducing plate usage. At the top is utilizing imaging and plate technology that enables the capability to reproduce graphics one-to-one-to-one between the file, the mask, and the plate with minimal sacrifice to original gray levels. The results are greater predictability and repeatability from the plates, and therefore less remakes and wasted plates. Next, another hot topic of late, look for imaging and plate technology that enables flat top dots. Plates with flat top dots run longer and can support several runs on the same set of plates. Flat top dots have greater impression latitude, allowing for more combination plates. And in summary, flat top dots will allow you to lose fewer plates. Third, choose a plate system that allows full reproduction of all 255 levels of gray. Reproducing the intricate pixel details that exist in the original file can only be achieved with a laser imaging system that can accurately reproduce this detail on the mask. This must be followed with the same capability when transferring the image from the mask to the plate. Full tonal range reproduction from file to plate can provide a much wider color gamut from even a 4-color process, removing the need for spot colors and therefore using less plates. Lastly, the capability to apply surface patterning effects to a plate can increase printed ink densities and help expand the overall gamut reproduction achievable with only 4 colors. The ability to print at higher ink densities can remove the need for double hits or spot colors and ultimately reduce the number of plates needed for a job. So lastly, we should consider the plate processing. As described in the studies done by DuPont, McDermott, and Flint, how will we address this? Well, as stated before, the whole plate and plate-making element contributes less than 1% of the total non-renewable energy used in Flexo printing process. And only about 1/4 of that 1% is the plate processing portion. So while every impact counts, it is important to put into perspective that the debate between solvent and thermal processing is focusing on making a very small change to 1/4 of 1% of the total impact. But what are the differences in plate processing? In solvent plate processing, the plate drying and solvent recycling steps are the major contributors to non-renewable energy and greenhouse gas emissions. In thermal plate processing, the manufacture and combustion of the fiber web dominates energy and greenhouse gas emissions. Although the true difference between these two processes lies within the 1/4 of 1%, there are steps that you can take to minimize this very small portion of your environmental impacts. For both solvent and thermal plate making, several best practices exist, many of which you're likely performing today. These may seem obvious, but are also very important to communicating to your brand owners and your customers. Avoiding landfill and improper waste disposal. Practice solvent recovery, which up to 95% is possible. And make sure you choose a reputable recycling or incineration partner. So having covered the environmental sustainability impacts of plate choice, let's discuss the business impacts of the 3 steps we've covered today. In fact, we just mentioned on the business impact, solvent recovery. This is a fantastic example how a sustainable activity can have a direct impact on your bottom line by reducing fresh solvent purchasing costs. So in step 1, reducing print substrate waste is going to make your biggest impact on environmental. Reducing plate usage will also help. And then reducing environmental impact through reclamation. These steps also have a positive impact on your bottom line. Less substrate waste means less ink used, shorter running times, less drying time, and more available press hours. These are all equal to a more profitable bottom line. Less plates, second initiative, means less plate processing, less plate drying. Less plates also means fewer colors, less inks used, and less ink waste. Less plates also means faster press setup. These all directly impact your environmental consumption, ink costs, and maximize your labor and press investments. And then as discussed previously, solvent recovery also helps you to reduce fresh solvent purchases if this is the type of plate processing you're choosing. So how can Kodak help where it counts the most? By reducing substrate and ink waste and the number of plates you use. The Kodak Flexo Onyx digital flexographic system was designed with maximum print production efficiency in mind. Through unique square spot imaging technology, the Flexo Onyx imager produces extremely accurate dots on the mask layer that are predictable and repeatably match the pixels of the ripped file. Kodak's mask and plate lamination step ensure that even height flat top dots go all the way down the tonal scale, providing unparalleled impression latitude, superior plate robustness, and longer run length. Indeed, it is not uncommon for users of the Flexo Onyx system to eliminate the practice of splitting solids and tones and having all on one combination plate. Kodak's imaging technology is the only current laser technology for Flexo that can effectively reproduce all 255 gray levels existing in the original file, with square dot sizes as small as 10 by 10 microns. The Flexo Onyx plates are reliable, high-quality flexographic plates designed to print on a wide range of substrates. The unique plate surface provides excellent ink transfer, smooth solids, uniform laydown, and the ability to print on a wide variety of substrates and a compatibility with a variety of inks. DigiCap NX screening takes ink transfer to the next level by creating a micro-texturization of the printing plate surface. The resulting improvements in ink transfer deliver enhanced density and quality with less ink, as well as production efficiencies, allowing Flexo printers to more easily mix areas of solids and halftones on the same plate. Enhanced imaging capabilities such as those in Flexo NX system deliver remarkable cost savings. Flexo NX user feedback has indicated that the combined benefits of these technologies have provided cost savings in their operations that have accounted for real measurements. Upwards of 30% savings in pre-press labor, 15 to 30% average reduction in make-ready time and materials, 2 to 5 times plate life and less plate remakes compared to traditional digital plates, an average of 10% faster running speeds, and a reduction in the number of colors and printing units required per job, anywhere from 7 or 8 down to now 4 and 6. Even taken conservatively, the application of real numbers like these to the percentages will demonstrate a significant impact on operational costs in the total printing process. And all of this still supports sustainability goals we have set out to achieve. So in summary, I hope that I've met the objectives that I set forth in the beginning of this presentation, and you'll have new thoughts on, first, where to focus your sustainability efforts so that they make the biggest difference in your operational environmental impact, and two, how sustainable choices in flexographic plate making and printing can positively impact your bottom line. I hope that when you make a plate choice, you will choose a plate that reduces substrate waste and ink waste, reduces the number of plates you use, and increases the profitability of your bottom line, all while delivering outstanding performance. That you're encouraged to consider improvements to sustainability within your operation can be truly achieved without compromise. I'd like to thank you for your time and attention, and I'd love to hear any questions or comments that you may have.
Robin, thank you very much for a really nice presentation. That was very well presented and nicely compact, so that's really great. To our audience out there, if you do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and enter those questions in the chat box down at the bottom left-hand corner. We've actually gotten several questions from people during the program, so let me go ahead and just feed those back to you. First question is, Robin, what does it mean to be carbon neutral, and how can I achieve this?
Well, that's good. I've had some questions from our customers, actually, as they try to make improvements themselves. One thing is to define carbon neutral. I think a lot of us get hung up with trying to be carbon neutral in the most perfect sense of the term. Traditionally, I think if you try to find the definition of carbon neutral anywhere on the internet, it's going to tell you you need to be responsible from cradle to cradle, which means you need to be able to account for and measure the carbon released during the production of all your raw materials, the disposal at wherever they end up. I think that's a huge undertaking for most of us. So what I would suggest, if you wanted to look at being carbon neutral, I would look at a more gate-to-gate process, which means you take ownership of any kind of carbon offsets and carbon emissions that occur at your receiving dock. And then you release your responsibility at your shipping dock. It's a very narrow focus, but it's something that you can start to work on immediately. Some of the things that you could look at right now are energy-based. Things that people are looking at are renewable energy sources like wind or hydroelectric. There's other things that you could look at that we even mentioned earlier that just make sense, like reducing your plate thickness, which all plate manufacturers agree improves energy, emissions, or even cost measurements. So I think to be carbon neutral is definitely something we should all strive for. I think the important thing is that we continuously make improvements to achieve that. And to be truly carbon neutral is something we all hope and aspire to be, but I think we can all start making steps like outlined today to achieve that goal.
Great, thank you. Next question that came in is, what organizations can I get involved with that focus on sustainability in the packaging printing industry?
Well, that one's interesting. Actually, when I joined Kodak, I looked for that. And being new to flexography, but having quite a history in sustainability, I wondered if there was such an organization out there. Some of the things that I've found that are closest, one would be the Sustainable Packaging Coalition. This is obviously from a very global packaging level, like we started the presentation out with, and would be able to provide information for the environmental vision for packaging. Members of the SPC, as it's called, provide a forum you can discuss. You can also receive letters from them. They publish white papers, and I found all of them to be very informative. I think as the brand owners and retailers start to improve sustainability on the shelf, ultimately they will be looking more upstream to what happens in the printing process. I think it's just a matter of time before somebody like Walmart moves from cube utilization and material efficiencies to how is that material printed. So I think the more we can be engaged in what's going on in the global packaging world, the better prepared we'll be as an industry to add our sustainability efforts to the mix. In mentioning Walmart, the other one I can think about is Greener Package. This is a really great resource. It's an organization that maintains a database for suppliers and their products, and you're able to list your environmental attributes. It actually links directly to the Walmart packaging scorecard, and it allows brand owners that service Walmart to go out and look for suppliers of environmentally friendly products. In fact, I listed Kodak's graphic communications group out there in the Flexo Onyx plates, along with other productivity-enhancing products from Kodak. And I would suggest highly to everyone on the phone that you go out and take a look at Greener Package and apply your products and services as well.
Very good. Well, real quick, everybody, if you could, let us know what you thought of today's program in terms of the content and, of course, the outstanding delivery that Robin gave to us, as well as just the logistics of logging in and all of that. We would really appreciate your feedback on that. So let me open that poll, and if you could just take a minute to respond while we're doing our questions, we would really appreciate it. Next question, Robin. Solvent plate processing still has the stigma of being bad for the environment. How does Kodak overcome this for Flexo NX?
I think that solvent plate processing has certainly gone through a transition. I think a lot of rumors and bad feelings may have started in the days of PERC when that was used to wash out photopolymer plates. There's also a history of the distillation equipment and recycling service providers that may have set that precedence. Certainly all of that has been diminished through time. They were no longer using PERC in most of the world and using much more environmentally friendly solvents. The distillation equipment and recycling service providers are highly regulated. They're closed-loop systems where there's minimal exposure to users in the environment, and they've certainly improved their safety record. I think that key to making solvents better for you is choosing a solvent that is low odor, provides faster plate processing, may perform at a lower temperature, and doesn't swell the plate. This would all help you reduce your energy usage, your drying time, and the amount of solvent used. So when I think about that 1/4%, which I do believe should not be your primary focus, but eventually should be everybody's focus, that the 3 R's kind of come to cycle. And I think reduction is the first step we can make. The reuse within the processor already occurs, and recycling is done through distillation. So I think we have a story that has gotten better through the years, and not to mention that thermal processing also has its own hazards. And I think the same concerns need to be applied to thermal processing when you have fiber webs that do release chemicals in that they are incinerated. Again, the 3 R's apply to them, too, so people using thermal processing should be thinking about the same thing. How can I reduce, reuse, and recycle? And certainly there are fiber web materials, just like solvents, some that are better than others for the environment. So, again, best practices, 3 R's, that's what we have today, and I think it's gotten a lot better than in the past.
Ah, yes, I remember those days. Nothing like the good smell of perchloroethylene in the morning.
I'm kind of glad I missed that.
Yeah. What are the print buyers in this whole sustainable packaging, or where are the print buyers in this whole sustainable packaging issue? Are they really serious, or are they just talking the talk?
Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few of them out there that are just talking the talk. And to be honest, there are print buyers that really don't care. But I would say in those situations, I wouldn't hesitate to tell them that you care and that you're making decisions within your organization to reduce energy usage or waste. I would say that for everybody on the phone, getting your sustainability story written down and setting your goals for continuous improvement is number one. That should be the first thing you do. Then if a print buyer doesn't bring it up, you bring it up. I think either way you're prepared to meet the needs of the print buyers who are focused on sustainability, and those who are not, it's just a matter of time. And you would hope that they remember your organization for being so progressive and knowledgeable when it comes to the time that they're not just walking the walk, they're talking the talk. So I think that's important. And I think that all of us that invest time in trying to define our sustainability messaging will receive the payoffs in the future.
Great. Last call for questions. If you do have any questions that you'd like to ask of Robin, please feel free to go ahead and chat those in. We've got about 3 questions left, and then we'll be out of here. Oh, yes. Here's an age-old question. Are discarded photopolymer Flexo plates processed in solvent considered a hazardous waste?
That's a good one. I think, again, if we talk back to the PERC days, I would certainly say yes, and that was a common concern back then. I think that one of the things that we might want to first think about is best practices, and I know that many printers out there are very concerned about this. The first thing you want to do is use a printing plate that is right-sized for your application. So again, the 3 R's, you reduce. So use the right-sized plate for your application to minimize waste. But in every situation, you're going to have a used plate. And from today, and the research I've done on this, both solvent and thermally processed photopolymer plates are normally classified as non-hazardous waste. I would suggest that the best bet is to obtain the Material Safety Data Sheet, or the MSDS, from your plate supplier. And in there should be a section on waste disposal recommendations. I think that certainly the Flexo Onyx one is you can also incinerate or you can landfill. But with the caveat, in all cases, remember that your disposal must be in accordance with your local, state, or country regulations. Doesn't that sound like a plug? But that is definitely the 2 places that you should be checking. You should be checking your MSDS and then your local municipality.
Very good. 2 more questions. Here's a couple that just came in at the last minute, so let me go ahead and share those with you. You quoted 2.5 to 5 times plate life. What is this really based on?
So that is based on our customer feedback. We have several sites around the world that have participated with us in providing experimental data. And in addition to that, we have constant user feedback from our very large installed base. And because of the flat top dots and the ability for them to go through numerous impressions without losing their integrity, the plates are able to last longer on press. So the 2 to 5 times is the average feedback that we've gotten. We've gotten people that have set up to 7 times, depending on the application. So right now it is based on internal experimental data, and looking forward to participating with the industry and possibly even making that a more broad experimental procedure in the future to really see what the true life is out there of everybody.
Okay, very good. Last question of the day. How far away in time is a water-based washout Kodak plate system?
It's funny. I just had a conversation this morning about that. I said, wouldn't it be fun if we could just sit in a room, any one of us, myself or somebody from DuPont, and just say, okay, blank sheet of paper, let's define a perfectly sustainable plate-making system. I think that would be a fantastic exercise. I think water-based washout systems certainly have a first step at trying to move in that direction. Now, water-based similarly has, some of the same concerns that when you wash out photopolymer, obviously there's still photopolymer to deal with. So I think that Kodak is looking at a couple different avenues in becoming more sustainable, and water wash is certainly one area that we may look at. But then again, like I said this morning, I think that starting with a blank sheet of paper might even be more exciting and more revolutionary for the industry.